Not yet, but I will.
All right, welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 462. Today's the 20th of September, 2023. We're going to get to the questions. We've got a couple of announcements, one big one about POFU Live, and then we're going to get into the good stuff. But first, let's talk to the guys, see what's going on. So Chris, going to start with you. How are things down in South America?
Good, sunny as usual. Nice weather, as you can see. No hail or anything like other people get reported, so can't complain. Like super happy here. Also hit the gym earlier today, so quite good.
Nice. Yeah, I feel I was out for a trail run on Wednesdays. I take a break, longer lunch, and then go out and hit the trails. And it's been really nice here. It's the fall, so it's nice and sunny today, but cool in the morning. So feeling good. And then I'm not wearing my Semantic Mastery shirt because Wednesdays are date nights in this house. So as soon as Hump Day Hangouts are over, we're headed out and taking Jenny out to dinner. So got to be ready to go. But
get him his Semantic Mastery shirt, not
I
a
need
t-shirt,
I've got my fancy Semantic Mastery polo. I should wear that. Oh man. Well, Bradley, are you done moving stuff around in the background?
Yeah, YouTube did something weird just now, and it took like 5 hard refreshes for it to go from private to public, where then it showed the chat box. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. Whatever. Yeah, I got it working.
Well, besides that, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Busy as all hell, but good nonetheless.
Cool. Well, I wanted to touch on something. Last week, we were scrambling. We've had some issues. Just to be honest with everybody, we had some real issues with venues this year for POFU Live. We've had a bunch of stuff come together where we needed to switch to a virtual or online POFU Live. So the upside of that is if you hadn't gotten your tickets yet, you can still grab your ticket because you can attend from anywhere now. You don't have to fly into Boston. You don't have to deal with that. Don't have to travel. You'll be able to do it online. So boo, we don't get to meet up in person. We're bummed about that. But yay, more people can make it. We know it's much easier and kind of less of a time commitment. So with that said, we're looking forward to a lot of it. I'm going to let Bradley speak a little bit to what he's going to be talking about. But I mean, I'm just going to run down the list again for people who haven't seen it. But we got Brian Caddo, Clint Butler, Ted Kabitis, myself, Chris, Peter Drew, Jeremy Notzelman, Mike Merlino, and I'm really looking forward to this because it covers a wide range. So not only things about building your business, building your local SEO business, getting clients, but getting into the technical stuff behind the scenes. Of course, the AI topic this year is going to be huge. I know at least 3 of the speakers are touching on it and probably more. I'm going to be speaking some to personal productivity, especially for agency managers. Or agency owners and managers, and kind of going back over some topics I talked about in 2018, I think it was at the first POFU Live in Washington, D.C., because some of that stuff is truly evergreen, but I'm also going to be looking at explaining some of the ways I've been updating and improving my productivity and efficiency with some of these tools. So Bradley, do you want to touch base on a little bit on what you're going to be talking about with the DHA stuff?
Yeah, because we have some awesome speakers that are going to be talking about SEO stuff, I'm going to kind of shift and talk more about the business side of things than SEO. For my presentation, it's going to be more around the directory hybrid agency stuff, but it can be applied to non-directory agency stuff. So I'm going to be talking more about how to make money from an SEO business, because again, I can't tell you how many times I do onboarding calls for all mastermind members. And I hear this over and over and over again. People are struggling that say they have an SEO business, and they do. They got clients, and maybe they're doing lead gen too, but a lot of them are not making near as much money as they can be or should be, in my opinion. And it's because of I think the industry is kind of screwed up in that everybody comes to this industry to try to learn how to do SEO, and they think that if they know how to rank stuff in Google, they're going to make money, and that's not true at all. There's a lot that goes into business, and then even if you know how to rank stuff, can you do it efficiently? Can you scale it? Is it stuff that, how do you turn it into a real business that produces good damn money? You know what I mean? Like the kind of money that I suspect people get into this industry to make money, not just because they have a passion for SEO. Sure, you can also develop a passion for SEO, but I'm pretty much sure that most people that are attending live Hump Day Hangouts and webinars and things like that aren't doing it just for infotainment, as they call it, or entertainment purposes. They're doing it because they have the intent on making money from it. And I don't think anybody comes to this industry thinking that like, oh yeah, I just want to I want to be self-employed and I want to work for $15 or $20 an hour and work 12, 14 hours a day so that I can make a living for my family. I don't think that's how people come into this business with that expectation. Yet that is where a lot of people are in this business. And so, like I said, I want to focus more on, because we have other speakers there that are going to be talking about a whole lot of high level SEO stuff. I want to focus more on like, how can you make more money from your SEO business? So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about. It's going to be slanted towards the directory hybrid agency stuff because we hope to launch that next month in October anyway. And so I've been working on that for 10 months, developing that whole program. But whatever I'm going to be talking about will apply regardless of whether you are part of that program or not. And that is, how can you turn your SEO business into a real business that generates real money for you without you being the one that has to do all of the work? So that's what I'm going to be focusing my topic on.
Nice. Chris, I didn't mention what you're going to talk about. Do you want to touch on that real quick, or are you keeping it a secret?
Nah, I can talk about it a little bit. So basically we have lots of people like you always like complain about coding and stuff. And there are actually quite easy ways to like get really good stuff done. Like, doesn't matter if it's API integrations, apps, scrapers, I don't know, some WordPress bug fix, PHP, MySQL, forms, all those kinds of things. So I'll talk about how you can actually do those things quite easy yourself, also with the help of AI, and not just on the surface. Because in case like you checked doing those things with AI, like, well, it worked a few months ago, like especially with scrapers and stuff, they cut those things quite down like a lot. So you got to be smart about it. And there are ways to still like get the gist out of it, and get GPT, for example, to like help you with building a scraper, but you got to know how to do it actually. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to talk about. And there will be lots of practical examples. So not actually, my talk is almost no theory. It's literally just all hands-on. So yeah, like, be excited about that.
Nice. I am. I'm looking forward to checking that out, because I know you certainly know more than me. I know enough to copy and paste and edit code and hack stuff together, but I would certainly like to be a little bit better without investing the time to not learn it, but I want to be able to create an MVP and then hand it off to a developer, for example.
Yeah,
awesome.
Definitely.
All right. Well, guys, I think that's it. Let's I would just want to make sure people understand too, this is the last chance. In terms of POFU Live, that is not this weekend, but next weekend. So the 29th, the 30th of September. Grab your tickets while you can. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. And with that said, Bradley, you want to, I think you had something you wanted to share, and then get into the questions, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll get into the questions. And then I think there's a question that was posted about ID pages that I can do a little bit of training on. We don't have a lot of questions today anyway, so it's good. I'll do a little bit more training. I did that last week too. That Hump Day Hangout got a lot of likes. So I'm assuming people enjoyed the training from last week, which is good. But one thing I do want to say is it can also partially blame the whole POFU Live thing going virtual on me, because I had a property under contract. I'm going to be moving. I've been in the house that I'm in for 10 years and I've been wanting to move. I'd just been waiting for my daughter to go to college to make the move. And so anyway, she went to Virginia Tech this month. And so she's gone. So now I'm free. I'm not tied to this fucking location anymore, right? I can do whatever the hell I want to do. And so I bought some property, or put some property under contract down in Southwestern Virginia, which is where I want to go. And that fell through, unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago. So I just placed another property under contract, but I have a very limited time to get to closing. And I have a bunch of feasibility study work to do, soil engineering, survey, that kind of stuff to get it to closing. And so it would have made it very, very difficult for me to be in Southwestern Virginia and Boston simultaneously, or within that couple of weeks period. It was just been real difficult. So in part, I approached my partners and said, look, guys, if we can go virtual, let's do it. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to throw myself under the bus there to take the blame for that. But I think it actually opened up an opportunity for us to serve more people. So anyway.
All's well in the end, or all's well that ends well. Yep.
Let's get into the questions. There's not many guys, so I'll spend a little bit of time talking about the ID page stuff too, because that was a good question. So let me grab the screen real fast, and then we'll get into it. So Roy is the first one up.
Cool.
Oh, and here's a land flipping question. That's interesting. Let's open that one up. All right. So Roy says, hey, Bradley, so we purchased the land profit generator program for our first campaign, and we sent out 575 direct mails to a county, in North Carolina, and almost 3,000 to a county in Arizona. So far, we've gotten 16 people who are interested in selling their land. But after we looked at the land they have, really only 8 of them are worth making offers for. And most of them want a way higher price than the number we need in order to turn a profit on the deal. So right now we're a little bogged down by it because we spent so much on sending out the direct mails and they really didn't get anything good in return. Would you suggest that going forward, we keep sending out more direct mails and maybe pick our county more wisely? If so, how would you suggest that we pick our counties? And do you think that the land flipping business model is still worth doing today? Or do you think it's gotten very competitive over the years and probably not worth doing now? Okay, I'm going to answer that last question first. Do I think it's still worth doing today? Absolutely. And do I think it has gotten overly competitive and not worth doing now? No, not at all. And here's the reason why. Because COVID and because of inflation and the state of our economy and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of people that are hurting for money right now. And so I think right now is actually a really, really, really good time to be in the land flipping business, because there's a lot of people that have inherited properties or, just have vacant land parcels that aren't producing any revenue. In fact, it's a tax liability. If it's not generating revenue for you and you pay property taxes on it, it's a liability. It's not an asset, right? So there's a lot of people out there that would take money for their property if they had the opportunity or if they knew, right? And again, when I was flipping land and sending out letters, I would get replies back from people that would be offended with the offers that I would make, but then would still accept them. Like, I'm not kidding. I had people write me back letters that would say, like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself for offering me such a low amount for my property, but I'm tired of paying taxes on it, so I accept. Like, I'm not kidding. I got letters like that. So the thing that I'm trying to say is, first of all, I don't think it's overly competitive. I don't think it's saturated. I think it's a good time to be in the land flipping business because it's a tangible asset. And again, you can actually help people that are hurting for money by buying their land that's not producing any revenue for them. In fact, they have to pay out of pocket for taxes every year. So that kind of answers that question first. Second, I think you went way beyond what I would have done as far as the number of letters mailed, especially when you're just dipping your toes in the water. You know what I mean? To test the kind of that's a lot of mail to send out 3,000 letters in one shot. That's a lot. First of all, when I was even a year and a half into the business, I did it about 2 years, but a year and a half into the business, it was run very efficiently because I had outsourced, trained VAs how to do most of the stuff. And so I was only spending maybe 4 to 6 hours a week on the business. And it was still producing very well for me every month, a minimum of 4 figures in profit, and many months, 5 figures. I never cracked 18,000 in a month. But I made every single month, I made profit. And all I was sending out consistently was 250 to 300 letters per week. That's it. 250 to 300 letters per week in and week out, every single week. That's how I did it. So I would send out anywhere between 1,000 to 1,200 letters per month. And I was generating 4 to 5 figures per month in revenue from just land flipping, working 4 to 6 hours. That's after I had learned the business and developed a bunch of SOPs and trained everybody. So I'm not saying you're going to be able to run a business in 5 or 10 hours a week right off the bat. It's going to take you some time to get to that point. But why I bring this up is because that's a lot of damn mail to send out all at once. And even when I had a lot of the work, the grunt work of analyzing properties and all that kind of stuff outsourced, I was only sending out 250 to 300 letters per week. Again, 1,000 to 1,200 letters per month. That's it. Because that was all the volume that I needed or wanted really to achieve the revenue goals that I wanted and stay within that time frame that I had allotted, because I was still doing SEO and semantic mastery and all this other stuff, right? So for me, that was all I needed to have a business that produced consistently for me as a side hustle, and it was great. So I would say I wouldn't want to send out 3,000 letters all at once, because that would bring so many leads in if you pick proper counties. And unfortunately, there's no way that you can figure out which are the best counties to market to without testing, right? It's a trial and error thing, just like SEO is, just like anything, right? You can have an idea, you can do research and everything else and try to make the best educated decision as to where to spend your marketing dollars, but you won't know until you start testing. And the same thing goes with counties. Like I said, in the state of Virginia, which is where I did I only flipped one property outside of the state of Virginia, which was in West Virginia. But in the state of Virginia is where I flipped properties, and I probably sent direct mail out to, at least 15, maybe 20 counties in the state of Virginia over the course of that 2 years that I was doing that as a side business. And what I found was there was about 5 counties that produced every time I mailed to them. And so what I did was I just, after, again, a bunch of trial and error, I found that those 5 counties were the ones that I would hit every other month or every 3 months with the same list. I would hit the same mailing list over again every 2 or 3 months with another batch of letters. Because again, time and circumstance changes everything, right? Because people will change their mind over time, especially if they keep seeing, it's the same thing online, guys. You see an ad over and over and over again. It causes brand recognition. It starts to develop a level of trust, like seriously, and it's just through recognition and all that kind of stuff. So I would say, especially when you're starting out, spending that much money on mail before you've really kind of worked out what are the best areas to target and all that kind of stuff is not an efficient way to spend your money. And by the way, I'm not picking on you, Roy. You can't know what you don't know, and you won't know these things until you try it, right? And so I love the fact that you took action, period. Like that, I commend you for that. All I'm saying is I think I would throttle that down a bit and spend your money more selectively with smaller batches, and then in different counties within the chosen states. And something else I want to recommend is pick one state and stick within one state and test different counties in that state until you find some that start to produce consistently or well, you get a higher response rate from. And also you'll learn that through analyzing properties, once you start getting inbound leads from your outreach, you'll find that some counties are going to be easier to do the property research and get comparable sales data and all that kind of stuff for than other counties. So again, that's a process of elimination. You'll start to identify the counties that are easier to work in, provide more data, higher response rates, et cetera. But all of that requires trial and error. So again, that's why I say it's better to start with smaller batches and spread it out over wider or more areas and monitor the results. You have to track everything. And the ones that start giving the higher response rates, and then you start doing the property research and determine, hey, this is a county that the data is easily accessible and things like that. Then you can say, okay, well, look, this one produced well. I can find the property records easily, blah, blah, blah. There's comparable sales, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to choose this as one of my farming areas or farming territories, meaning I'm going to hit this over and over again. Like I said, every 3 months, quarterly. So 4 times a year, you're going to send out a batch of letters to that same county, that same list. And you'll see it'll start to produce. It's the same thing with like email marketing, right? You send out a sequence of emails and you get a higher response rate at email number 5 than you do at email number 1 or number 2. It's the exact same thing with direct mail. So that's why I said unfortunately, there's no way for me to tell you other than just through trial and error as to how to identify which counties are the best. But so spend less and spread it out over more areas and track the results. And then you'll start to identify those areas that bear or produce more fruit, if that makes sense. And I say stay within one state because the way, especially if you're new to doing real estate closings, the laws vary by state. And so it's important to kind of get familiar with the contract law of the particular state that you're working in and the closing process or the settlement process and all of that kind of stuff. And so again, I focused all of my business in the state of Virginia. I got a West Virginia lead that I ended up flipping that property. And then I started to expand into Tennessee right before I closed shop. And I closed shop so I could go back full time in the SEO. But so anyway, like I said, I think you just, perhaps chose maybe an area that wasn't the greatest area. And also, like I said, I think you went too aggressive for your first mailing, and you probably spent a lot of money. And you can see that that's not really, again, once you kind of identify the areas that produce better results, then you can scale your spending, right? You do more mailing to them or bigger batches of mail, but start slow and work your way up. And that's my advice. I don't know if that's what Jack Bosch teaches or not. That's just how I ran my business. And it worked really well. Again, it fit and the constraints of the time that I had available to spend on that business. If that's clear. So anyway, that's a very small response rate. So again, my thoughts were, I think, I can't remember. I'd have to go back to my notes and all that, but I believe I was getting somewhere around a 20% response rate, which was pretty good, 15 to 20% response rate. One other thing I do want to mention is before we move on, and I know I spent a lot of time on this, guys, but there's not a lot of questions, and I thought this was a pretty good topic. When you say but after we looked at the lands that they have, only 8 of them are worth making offers for. Okay, why do you say that? Here's the thing, guys. If you're flipping, if you're in the land flipping business or real estate flipping business, period, but we're talking about vacant land here, why would you say that there's only, out of 16 properties, only 8 of them are worth making offers on? Why not make offers on all 16? Make offensively low offers. If you don't think the property's worth making an offer on, then just make an offensively low offer, like something that you should be ashamed of yourself for making an offer, because why not? Like if they say yes, now you got a property for next to nothing. And so again, even if you think it's a junk property, what you think is junk is another man's gold. And I mean that. I found properties that I would make offensively low offers on because I looked at it, I was like, this is a piece of junk. I don't want it, but I'm still going to offer them $1,000, right? Or $500. No kidding. And I would get people that would take me up on the offer. 1.5 acres, 2 acres, and it doesn't perk, meaning it won't allow a septic field. So you can't build there. And it's 1.5 acres, and I sent them an offer and they say, oh no, we want $5,000 for this 1.5 acres. And I send them an offer, a written contract offer with a earnest money or binder deposit for $300. And then that's where I would get stuff back, like a reply, like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself making such a low offer on my property, but I'm tired of paying taxes on it, so I accept. Like, I'm not kidding. That kind of shit happens. And so what I'm saying is it's 1.5 acres of property that market value, because it doesn't perk, would only be, $1,500, $2,000, and I make an offer for $300 and they take it. Now I can turn around and put that right back on the market. Because remember, all I'm doing is selling a contract. I'm not actually taking ownership of the property, just locking it up under contract and then marketing the contract. We're real estate marketers, not investors, unless you're actually buying and holding. So I would put the contract right back on the market and say $1,000 or whatever, $800 or whatever, and say right in the listing, does not perk. And then I would have contractors call me and say they needed a lot to store their equipment or sea containers where they could put materials, building materials and things like that. So again, you don't know what you think is valuable and not valuable doesn't mean that other people don't think that it's value. So in other words, you might see a property that you don't think is valuable, but others might for various reasons. So just make offensively low offers. That's the thing. And by the way, who cares what they want for the offer? It doesn't matter what they want. It's what you offer. That's what matters. All that matters is whether they accept it or not. It doesn't matter what they want. You make the offer at whatever you feel that you can make that deal profitable for. And so even properties that you don't think are worth a damn, offer something stupid low. And then if they accept it, now you've got a property that you can just mark up slightly and turn around and sell it and make a quick profit for some piece of junk property that you had no desire in whatsoever, but you still bought it cheap enough. Remember, you don't make your money in the sale, you make your money in the purchase, right? Seriously, if you buy it low enough, you know you can make money on it. And that's the other thing, guys. Last part, and I'll move on, I promise. With the contracts, I always put a weasel clause in. I know I always called it a weasel clause. I do that now. I got a property on a contract right now that I was just talking about that I'm going to be closing on for my own personal use. And I always put a weasel clause in there, and it says like my weasel clause is subject to the buyer's approval of a soil test, right? It doesn't say subject to a perk test approving for a 2-bedroom septic field or whatever, or 2-bed, 2-bath septic, whatever. It doesn't say that, because then I would be locked into purchasing the property if the soil test came back saying, yes, it approves for a septic field. I always put in subject to buyer's approval of whatever the test is or the feasibility study work is, because then it's subjective. I can back out of the contract by just saying, well, I don't approve. Yeah, it did perk, but I don't approve. And I've done that before where I've locked the property up under contract with what I call a weasel clause. And I submitted the offer to a realtor, a real estate professional. And I use air quotes because a lot of realtors don't know what the fuck they're doing. I swear to God. And I would send the contract offer with that language stating subject to buyer's approval of soil test or whatever, or survey or whatever. And then they would present it to their client. The client would accept the offer. And then when I backed out because I wasn't able to sell it or whatever the case may be, which happened a few times, then the realtor would come back and say, well, you have to buy, you're under contract. And I would say, no, I put in read the addendum, subject to buyer's approval. I don't approve. And then they'd say, oh, well, that's sneaky. Wait a minute. You're the real estate professional. You're the realtor. You advised your client on this contract. You wrote it up and presented it to them and they signed it. You as the real estate professional should understand contract law better. Why am I, the layman, the civilian, smarter on contract law than you? And I'm not saying that to be arrogant, guys. I'm saying that because if you understand contract law and things like that, and that's why I say it's important to understand your state, then you can do things like that to protect yourself as the buyer. Does that make sense? Anyway, I thought that was a great question because it's relevant and to something that I'm doing currently right now. But it's, like I said, I know Jack Bosch's contracts, 6 months, 180 days to closing. So you get 6 months. Every now and then I would catch some grief from a seller about the 6 month closing date. And they'd say, well, why is it going to take 6 months? And I would always use the statement, well, because I've got other transactions in progress and I need to free up capital. That's what I would always say. And so sometimes I would have to shorten that closing time from 6 months to 4 months or 3 months. And if I thought I could sell it, then I would. But the point that I'm trying to make is that, it states all these are very clearly described in the contract, like buyer or contract owner can market the contract for sale, all that kind of stuff. So again, you're covered, right? So anyway, great topic. I still love that business. I truly do. Eventually I'll get back into doing it when I have more time. Anyway, I thought that was a great question. So moving on, Larry says, I've heard you talk about ID pages. We've got 30 minutes. I've heard you talk about ID pages before, but I am unclear about what they are for. Can you explain what they are and how to use them for SEO? It's a great question. So I did a little bit of research earlier today to pull up some resources from many years ago when I kind of was trying to figure out what ID pages were for as well. So guys, ID page, if you do local business schema, structured data, or if you're using schema period, you'll see a lot of a schema code will have an ID reference, an @ID reference. And what that means is it's a unique resource identifier, It's a URI. That's what an ID page is. That essentially is a point of reference. And I'll explain this in a minute because I pulled up some supplemental resources here. But when structured data has been schema for local business and such has been around for many years now. It was kind of originally there was microdata, which was kind of a way to do structured data via like HTML elements. So you could mark up a page with structured data, but it was done like in the main content body of the page using microdata, which is again, it's an HTML markup. Okay. But then when it switched to JSON LD, so now we add the code up in the, heads, it can be anywhere on the page really, but we usually put it in the head section of the page. That's when an @ID field started to appear. At least that's when I started noticing it. And for several years, I didn't know what the hell it was for. And I don't know that anybody did because we all just usually would just reference the page that it was on. So usually local business scheme would go on a homepage. So we would just reference the homepage URL as the @ID field. But at some point, I think it was it might've been 2018 or 2019. I can't remember. But at some point I found an article. I thought it was on the SEMrush blog. So I looked for it. That article may have been rewritten or whatever since then. I'm unable to find the original article. And I don't know if it was SEMrush or Built Visible, but it was anyways, there was an article originally that I saw in 2018 or 2019 that had the first explanation of what an @ID field was supposed to be for. That made sense to me. And it basically described an ID field is supposed to reference a unique resource identifier, URI, that validates entity information, right? So essentially it's a way to validate or reinforce, corroborate entity information or information about that element that you are that the schema is marking up, right? So essentially that's what that is supposed to be. That's what I had read it as. First of all, let me pull this up. This is from Schema app. This is the app that I use. Again, I've just been using this for years. I probably would use something else if I had to start over now, but I'm still using this because they've got a lot of good help documents, etc. But specifically, this is what it's talking about. We will show you the specific identifiers at IDs, aka URIs. It's unique resource identifiers, to define objects in your content as distinct entities with their own properties and relationships to other entities. Once defined, these entities can be linked to a search engine's knowledge graph through structured data like schema markup. Knowledge graphs represent the linking of information and data across the web, providing content for search engines as they crawl your website. So what is this telling you? This is telling you that an ad ID, so whatever you designate or reference there, is a way to define objects in your content as distinct entities with their own properties and relationships to other entities that are linked to the search engine's knowledge graph through structured data, and knowledge graphs represent the linking of information across and data across the web. So this is what I talk about when I say the terms like informing the knowledge graph, which is where I got that from Jason Bernard from CaliCube Pro. He talks about informing the knowledge graph. I've called it like expanding the entity footprint. But what I think of an ID page is our opportunity as SEOs to at least partially control some of the data that is fed into the semantic web about a particular entity, right? So what I like to, when I first kind of learned about this and the ID field stuff, like what it is supposed to be for, again, 2018, 2019, I can't remember what year it was sometime around then. But when I first read that, I instantly thought, man, we can use this to manipulate SEO, right? And so that's originally when I first read that, that's when I just took an HTML template that I got from Peter Garrity from many, many years ago when he was still in the SEO business. Now he's in the e-com business. But when he was in the SEO business, an HTML template, and I just created a single page HTML site that was like literally just information about a local business, right? Something like tree service contract or whatever. And I would use it to do a bunch of embeds. We call it an iframe stack, right? So embed the money site, embed the Google Business Map, the Google Business website. When at the time, when I first started doing ID pages, you could embed G sites. You can't with the new ones, but you used to be able to with the old ones. So just doing a whole bunch of embeds, listing and same as attributes, all of the branded assets and citations, et cetera, which by the way, this SEMrush blog here talking about it, it says same as here, and then it talks about ID. Let me just read this briefly. At same as is where you add your social media links, Wikipedia, company pages on review sites and professional association sites, et cetera. Add as many as possible for maximum credibility and context. So again, just goes to show you that, using schema properly, and I'm not a schema nerd, guys. I'm certainly not. Like I said, I use it fairly basically on a fairly basic level. I'm not the schema nerd. But then it says in the add ID category, you need to add a unique URL, which is a URI actually, that will be used to identify your company. You may be tempted to use your homepage as a unique identifier for your company. However, the homepage can also be the unique identifier for the website schema. Therefore, it is clear to use a single anchor for just this purpose. It doesn't have to be a real page. So a lot of the times you'll see this in markup, you'll see it'll be domain.com, whatever it is, then the hashtag and then ID or hashtag organization. That's fine. But if we can provide a specific URL, the Googlebot will crawl it and go, it's not the same as a link, but it's a reference point. It's like a citation. It's referencing this URI, this unique resource identifier, that the Googlebot can then go crawl and verify or validate entity information. So it's our way of being able to partially control data that is fed into the semantic web for a local entity. That's how I view it. And so again, when I first read that and I kind of understood it for the first time, I just went and took an HTML template from Peter Garrity that I just added all the information about the local business that I could, citations, embeds, name, address, phone number, map embed, all that kind of stuff. And then I published it on Amazon S3. So bucket hosting, Amazon S3 bucket hosting, single page HTML website, and started referencing that in the ID page field in structured data. And that became a focal point for the local entity. And so that is one of the most powerful things that you can do for local SEO, in my opinion, is to build an ID page properly and then use that as a significant linking source. Now, I brought this up just as an example. This is one that I did for TreeCare HQ Winchester. Again, that whole project is still in progress, still in development. It's part of the DHA program. So no links have been built to this. I think there's one Press Advantage link to this because it was, I embed the ID page in Press Advantage. Anyway, it's a 1 by 1 pixel embed anyway, it's like a hidden embed. But anyway, this is an ID page that is done the way that I recommend doing them now. I use Yaks for this now. Like I said, I used to use just an HTML template, very basic, that I would edit with Notepad++, and then upload it to Amazon S3. Now I just use Yaks, yet another cloud stacking software, Jesper Nissen software, to do it. But you can see it's still an S3 bucket, right? So this is an ID page for Tree Care HQ Winchester, and you can see that we list entity information. This is the G sheet. So we teach this in the mastermind about how to use the G sheet as a way to kind of consolidate all the branded and supporting assets and citations, concatenate. I think I said it right this time. I always struggle with that word, but you can concatenate the URLs to keywords and all that. And then you embed that in the ID page. Then this becomes a significant link building target. Again, this one doesn't have many links built to it. I think it's, like I said, it's got 2 backlinks or 2 referring domains. Press Advantage is the only backlink really built to it. If you can take a look at this. But like I said, this can be one of the most powerful kind of parts of a local SEO campaign. Because if you build it right, you do all of your link building, or excuse me, all of your embeds and everything else, optimize it properly. And there's a number of things that you can embed in here, but then you can use this as one of your main target points for link building, because it's going to flow through all these iframes to all of your branded assets, right? So you embed the money site. You can embed, so here's the money site right here. You can embed the Google Business Assets if you have them, all of that, and it's just going to power that up if you use this. And remember, the way that we host this, and this is on an S3 bucket, that's the way I've always done it, still do it to this day on S3 buckets. You can use other cloud hosts if you'd like. I've always just done it on Amazon, and I'm going to continue to do it on Amazon. But this type of URL can take all kinds of link abuse. I don't recommend spamming your ID page, guys, because it's part of your entity. So I always recommend, building clean links to it. But because it's an S3 bucket, you could potentially spam it. I'm not telling you to do that, seriously, because I don't spam any entity assets at all, period. Maybe at tier 3, you can use bulk spam, but I don't like to do it anywhere near the tier 0 or tier 1 assets. I don't like to spam those. And this, in all reality, I would consider this, I still call this a tier 1 asset, but it's really part of the tier 0, in my opinion, because it can become the entity home if done properly. So anyway, hopefully that's clear. I really, really like ID pages. I still, to this day, it's a critical part of what we do, even for semantic links. Like, again, this is it's standard operating procedure. An ID page gets built for every project. So that was a great question. Just really quickly, we do have training in the mastermind for how to build and optimize ID pages and how to set up the hosting in Amazon and all that. It's all part of the SOPs that I provide in the mastermind. However, if anybody's interested in just getting one built, again, I just use Yaks for it. I'm full transparency, but I do sell ID pages at semantic links for $59. So $59, we'll build it and host it for you. And then now you've got an ID page that you can reference in your ID field in your structured data. And then again, it becomes a primary link building target that you can be really aggressive with link building to this. And it's going to flow through to all of your other tier 0 assets, Google main self-hosted site, Google business website, Google Map. If all of those are embedded here, and it will power up your other assets too. Like here's the Press Advantage organization page, right? Here's one of the cloud pages from part of a cloud stack, what I call the brand builder. That's over here. Got the Google Map embed down here. We've got other links, which I know followed intentionally, but these are 2 other pages on the site or service pages on the same site, etc. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do here. David, I think you said something about want a ninja trick for this ID page. Yes, I saw your comment and I'm going to reply to that. Yeah, please. What's the ninja trick? If you can reply back, I'd love to know what the ninja trick is. But anyways, guys, again, ID pages, there you go. I'll post this in chat. Not here to pitch you on my service. I'm just saying, if you don't feel like going through the process of doing it yourself, there you go. There's an opportunity, an option. Okay. Great question. Moving on. Adam says, service area business registration. Can one SAB business register a GBP in multiple cities it is serving? Does this require a physical address in each of the respective cities? Yes, it does. One service area business can register Google Business profiles in multiple cities, but as long as it has a valid business location in the other cities that it can verify. That's Adam, if you're the same Adam that I had an onboarding call with for their mastermind earlier today, as I talked, I don't know if it is or not, but I had an onboarding call with an Adam today, and we were talking about this very topic. So it seems to me like it might be the same Adam. But in any case, what I was saying was, yeah, for service area businesses, I mean, that's what I recommend, because the map proximity or the coverage area continues to get smaller and smaller for local projects. Google keeps forcing everybody to like hyper local search results. It's, there was 2 times in the last year and a half or 2 years now that I saw significant maps coverage narrowing, like narrowing of maps coverage or narrowing of proximity, whatever you want to call it, that were significant changes that occurred. You could visibly see it. Like I said, over the last year and a half, 2 years, it's happened twice. But it seems like Google keeps narrowing it even more, just very slowly now. So it's not as abrupt and not as noticeable, but it still seems like the maps coverage area keeps shrinking. And, I know that sucks for all of us as SEOs, but remember, it's all relative. We're all in the same boat. It's not that Google is only narrowing proximity for the projects that we work on. It's narrowing proximity for all of them. So it's all relative. We're all in the same boat. And I think it's because Google keeps trying to return more and more hyper localized results. And so what I always, and I talked about this on the call today with the Adam that I was on the call with today. So what we try to do with my clients is we try to expand the maps proximity as far as we can. We try to push it out as far as we can. And then at some point we hit what I call an invisible boundary, right? Which is like where Google doesn't want to show the map in outside of this particular area. Like, in other words, it's very difficult to get into the 3-pack. And you can kind of identify where those are after properly optimizing and starting to expand the map. You'll reach a point where it just kind of stops moving. And what I always recommend is that after 2 months of attempting to continue to push expansion, and it has no gains or very marginal gains, after 2 months of concerted effort, we found the barrier, right? We found that boundary. And therefore, from that point forward, it's futile, in my opinion, to continue trying to expand beyond that, because through sheer force, through brute force, you can still push the map beyond where Google wants to show it. But at every opportunity that Google can, it will narrow it again, meaning it's very difficult to maintain it. And so I figure, what's the point of constantly battling Google? Once you find that kind of boundary, that barrier, then from that point forward, either focus on organic assets only or organic assets plus Google Ads. I know we're here for SEO, not for Google Ads, but I'm giving a whole nother look at Google Ads again. Again, I've been working on several campaigns recently just to help overcome some of this proximity shit. Or secure other Google business profiles. So yes, you can register other Google business profiles, but you need to verify them, which means you need a verifiable address, and you need to also be able to prove to Google that you have a business there. And that's becoming very difficult to do because Google's requiring video verification that shows signage or, corporate documentation that, proves that a business resides at that location, et cetera. So it's becoming very, very difficult to do that. That is certainly something that we've done in the past, and that's what I would recommend if possible. Yes, secure other Google business profiles, but therein lies the rub. It's difficult to do, right? So does it require a physical address? Yes, it does. So you're going to have to verify it. So, and I know there's a few hacks that still exist today where you can still verify Google business profiles without the whole video verification stuff, but they're becoming a lot harder or less frequent. And the one thing that I knew how to do to get Google business profiles every time has now been taken from us in recent weeks. I'm not even going to bring it up now because there's no point. But anyway, so yeah, hopefully that's clear. Adam says, yes, it is me. Okay, Adam, I see you in chat now. So yeah, okay. So hopefully that's clear, Adam. And again, if you want a deeper discussion on this, we have the mastermind. We can always bring that up again. Okay. By the way, the Build with Bradley discussion group is tomorrow. So that's an hour-long Zoom meeting where everybody can turn on their cameras and chat, like have a real discussion instead of just text chat. So Adam, if you can, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, that is the Build with Bradley group. We can talk it out tomorrow. Okay, Uma says, hey, Bradley, how are you? I am well. There's been 2 GBP review sweeps lately, and we've been really struggling with getting reviews posted to our GBP listings lately. How would you recommend that we get new reviews posted to our listings and prevent them from dropping? Thanks. I mean, again, we're all in the same boat. I know, because I've seen that happen too. And how do you get new reviews posted? Make sure there is a process in place, an automated process in place, preferably automated, that whenever a sale is made or a job is completed, I don't know what industry you're in, that a review request gets sent to the client or customer quickly, immediately, right? And it should be something that's automated. So, because if it's done manually, it will be missed, right? People won't do it. If you do it automatically, where it's, it's automated, or you don't even have to think about it, a sale is made and 24 hours later, a review request gets sent out, or a job is marked completed, and 2 hours later, a review request gets sent out via SMS and or email or both, whatever, all and in a sequence, right? High level has some automations that can do that. And it has listeners that you can set in the automations to determine if a reply has, if a review's been submitted or not. So it can send out a second request or a third request, et cetera. But you have to set all that stuff up and use it, right? That's what I mean. There's no more fake reviews, in my opinion. I don't suggest it to anybody. I actually recommend 100% against it. You can be you can be sued by Google, brought up on state charges or federal charges for posting fake reviews. So just be really careful. That's why I don't recommend it at all. I don't even talk about it anymore, other than to tell people just don't do it. It's not worth it to get a temporary ranking gain and then be sued by Google. You're going to lose if you get sued by Google. They have a lot more lawyers than you do. So you're going to lose. and I would hate to be brought up on criminal charges by either the state or the federal government. Because once again, you're going to lose. So, just don't do it, in my opinion. So how do you get more reviews? Have an automated review solicitation system or app in place, so that you don't have to think about it. It's just automatically done whenever a sale is made or a job is marked completed or whatever. Okay. And how do you prevent them from being removed? You can't. Not that I know of. It's up to Google. We're at Google's mercy. It's just like Yelp, right? I mean, Yelp is the worst, no doubt. But, we can't control that. I know I've got clients that get nothing but real reviews, and they see the same thing. Google comes through and all of a sudden they went from, 128 reviews to 93. What happened? Those 25 reviews or whatever it was, that if my math was right, 35 reviews, whatever, 35, I guess it would have been. They just disappeared, vanished, vaporized. And for what reason, we don't know. Google just didn't like them, thought they were fake or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to prevent that. Maybe somebody else does, but I don't. Just get more of them. If you have an automated system in place where it's always sending out a review request after a sale or job is marked completed or whatever, then, over time, you'll collect more and more. It's whenever you have to do it manually that you'll see, like, people will do a blast out to their list or whatever, and they'll get a flood of reviews in for a week, and then it's dead stop, it's crickets for the next 3 months, because they do it manually. So they just don't have an automated process to where they're consistently getting new reviews. That's why I say automate it. So you don't have to think about it. It just happens. It just gets done. Right. That's the only thing I can suggest. And I'm not saying high level is the best for that. It probably isn't, but you can use high level for that. And that's what I use. Hopefully that's clear. Okay, well, we got 12 more minutes. Is there any comments in here? It doesn't seem like you guys are super chatty today either. So, Jim Wells, what's up, buddy? It's been a while. What's up, David? And I had all my stacked URLs there. Are you talking about your ID page, David? Yes, and the G sheet from the stack for sure. Want a ninja trick for the ID page? You can embed the ID page into the Google Sheets. You can embed it into the Google Sheets? I didn't know that. I've always linked to it, but I didn't know you could embed an ID page into G Sheets. That's interesting. Maybe tomorrow morning you can show me the code for that, David. That'd be interesting. David says, so what do you think that means? Oh, you mean I embedding the ID page? I've not tested that. Again, I didn't even know you could do that. So that's interesting. I'd like to see that. So, well, that's it, guys. That was quick. We got 10 more minutes, and it's rare that we end these early, but let's go ahead and do it. Back to work.
Woo, date night. All right.
When did you put a dress shirt on, man? Did you change?
Yeah, I had to do a costume change for the end of Hump Day Hangouts. Nah, yeah, it's just did a change and
okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't going crazy.
Just start
on.
messing with Bradley's mind during Hump Day Hangouts.
Well, all right, guys. I appreciate you all. Remember, build a Bradley group tomorrow, 2 p.m. So we'll see some of you guys.